Heavy rain pours down over a dark mountain pass littered with fallen bodies and blood. He catches his breath in the pouring rain, trying to steady himself after the brutal fight. He grips his sword tightly as the rain continues to pour. Baek stands amidst the carnage known to all as the best sword among vagabonds. He earned that title after 18 years of wandering the Jianghu, looking for lost martial arts, but he admits he doesn't like it. He figures that being called the best sword among vagrants sounds pathetic, wondering if years of grinding only amounted to this. Despite the doubts, he insists he still has a long way to go to turn the Baek clan into a prestigious noble family. So he warns anyone listening not to stand in his way. A hooded figure steps out from the shadows, addressing him as the young clan leader of the Namgung clan, Namgung Xianyang. Someone declares that the best sword among vagrants can't be left alive, confronting him directly. He confronts Baek Yonghui, questioning why the young clan leader stepped forward himself and noting how he reached the supreme realm with third-rate arts. He explains he can't sit back while Baek reclaims the true martial arts of the Baek clan to rule the world. Enraged by the betrayal, Baek calls him a despicable scum and launches into a furious attack. Baek condemns the great Namgung clan's reputation, but Namgung calmly replies that one of them will die today, drawing a mocking laugh from Baek. Taunting each other with lethal confidence, Baek lunges forward with his blade to settle things once and for all. He gasps in pain as he struggles to keep his footing amidst the pouring rain. Challenging his opponent with a fierce roar, the brutal life-or-death battle officially begins. 4 hours tick by as the relentless duel stretches on into the night. Their blades crash against each other in a blinding flash of light. The two fighters trade over 1,000 intense martial exchanges without holding back. Devastating blows continue for a long duration, building up to a critical breaking point. Suddenly, a sharp blade pierces right through Baek, cutting him down. Severely wounded, Baek stumbles through the gloomy forest among the fallen bodies. He stands over a bleeding opponent, mocking his reputation as the best sword among vagabonds. The defeated enemy lies silently on the ground with blood pooling around him. As the fallen foe offers a weak apology for losing, he rejects it entirely, pointing out that public enemies don't get off with mere words before mocking his dying breath. A bloodied young man pants heavily as he collapses onto the ground, desperate to return home. He stumbles forward amid the chaos, desperately trying to catch his breath. Struggling to stay on his feet, he vows to return to Baek Manor and restore his father's honor. His vision blurs as he collapses heavily onto the ground, unable to keep going. Realizing his body is failing him, he panics and insists he needs to hurry back home. Sinking into darkness, he apologizes to his brother and father, consumed by deep regret over failing to build Baek Manor into a great clan. As the flow-defying heaven alters the shackles, a mysterious golden light erupts around him. A mystical voice declares that everything must be corrected and sends him back to fulfill his deepest desires. Yang Hui blinks in utter confusion, staring around with wide eyes as he tries to process what just happened. He suddenly finds himself standing outside Baek Manor, wondering how he survived when he was just dying, right before Baek Muryang names him Yang Hui and wishes him a bright life. Baek Muryang introduces himself as his new father with a warm smile, urging him to say the word while Yang Hui stands there completely stunned. Wondering if this is what his father looked like back when he was first adopted, Yang Hui tries to make sense of the situation. Convinced he is either seeing his life flash before his eyes or dreaming of his happiest days, he gets a quick reality check as someone tells him it is no dream at all. He tells the young boy to open his eyes and take a good look. As he introduces his new home, a shocked Baek realizes the young woman standing before them is his mother in her youth. Young Hyunso crosses his arms and wonders if this strange kid is really his older brother. Little Yeon happily cheers about getting another big brother, marveling at how everyone has turned young again. Standing in the courtyard, Baek panics as he realizes he has somehow regressed to the past, wondering how such a miracle is even possible. A mysterious voice tells him to go back and finally fulfill what his heart desires. Baek gasps in realization as the truth of his second chance finally sinks in. Clenching his fist with fierce determination, Baek vows that this time he will protect his people and turn Baek Manor into the greatest clan under heaven. Baek looks back at his mother in her youth and his young brother and sister. He sees his father looking healthy alongside Chief Steward Han. Realization hits as he acknowledges he has truly returned to the age of 8. Clenching his fist, Baek figures this bizarre twist is a massive opportunity. Armed with past knowledge and martial arts, he vows to lift his family to greatness. Suddenly, heavy footsteps echo through the courtyard as someone approaches. A massive blast shatters the gate, prompting Namgung to demand who goes there. A booted foot steps through the wreckage, roaring out a demand for the Baek family. Guak of the Hangyo sect bursts in to collect a blood debt, exactly as Baek anticipated. Suddenly, the muscular intruder calls out, announcing that he's Guak and has come to collect a blood debt from Baek Muryang. He demands to know if Baek Muryang is trying to play dumb about wiping out the Nok faction today, leaving Baek confused about what blood debt he could possibly mean. Baek fires back that the Nahuk faction were human traffickers and drug pushers, so punishing them was entirely justified, but someone interrupts to say he doesn't know anything about their morals. Guak argues that since those villains operated under the Hangyo sect banner, attacking them was an attack on the sect itself, and demands heavy compensation. Hearing this outrageous demand, Baek stands frozen in sheer disbelief. He recalls that this exact day marks a dark turning point. Baek remembers how his father suffered severe injuries at the hands of the Hangyo sect back in his past life. A violent kick strikes his father down during the brutal confrontation. Guak laughs maliciously as the chaos unfolds around them. The intruders plundered their family fortune, plunging the Baek family manor's prestige to an all-time low. As the family wealth declines, this time Baek vows not to just stand by and take it. Stepping forward, he asks his adoptive father for a chance to repay the grace shown by taking him in. Gu calls out in confusion, demanding to know what that brat is doing and telling him to step back at once. Watching anxiously, Baek worries about him getting hurt. Telling his father not to worry, Baek heads out while being asked if he even has a plan. Even a young beggar has their own way of surviving in the martial world. Asking for trust because there is nothing left to lose, he reassures his father once again. Determined in this life never to repeat past failures and frustrations, Baek steps forward. Greeting brother Gu with a bright smile, he suddenly strikes, leaving the others completely stunned. He calls out to Gu, nervously dubbing him brother. Gu blows his top, demanding to know if Baek is joking since he's 30 and old enough to have a son like him. Baek backpedals fast, gushing that Gu looks barely past 20 and asking if he constantly hears how handsome he is. Gu immediately eats it up, blushing and agreeing that his face is indeed quite good-looking. Nearby, a subordinate whispers that their boss loves hearing he looks young, though he actually looks pretty haggard. Gu whips around in sudden shock after overhearing the whispers behind him. Panicking, the lackeys swear the kids in the neighborhood know how handsome he is, and Gu nods in proud agreement before telling Baek he has a good eye. Gu warns Baek that flattery won't erase his father's blood debt, but Baek begs him to hear him out first. Baek shares his tragic past as a street beggar kidnapped by the Black Raven sect before Baek Muryang rescued and adopted him. Baek Muryang looks on with deep emotion at his adopted son. Baek calls him father, leaving Gu stunned to learn the ruthless sect once tried selling off such a scrawny kid. Gu stands there wondering if those guys were really acting that wickedly. He brushes it off, arguing that only his gang has the right to punish their own, and they won't stand for such tyranny from the righteous sword. Chief Steward Han fires right back, asking if they think trafficking children was somehow right. Enraged, Gu grabs the old man by the collar, threatening him for daring to raise his voice. Just then, Baek steps in with a cheerful smile, suggesting an alternative. He points out that the feud involves him too, offering useful information if they drop the grudge, while the grabbed elder worries about the brat. Gu scoffs at the idea of information, amused by the kid's boldness. Gu agrees to hear him out, vowing to treat him like a brother if it's worth it, but threatening a brutal beating if it's just nonsense. Nearby, someone rushes to check on Chief Steward Han as he recovers. This brat laughs it off, telling Gu that a real man never breaks his word. He asks to step aside so subordinates won't overhear, while the gang members get annoyed thinking the kid is looking down on them. Gu tells him to go ahead and speak. Leaning in close, this brat whispers that Gu is looking for the spy hiding inside the Hangyo gang. Stunned, Gu asks how he knows that, and the kid just replies he heard plenty while begging on the streets. Claiming it's thanks to past life memories, the kid explains that the spy has a blue snake tattoo belonging to the Blue Snake Gang and points straight at Book Akshin. Furious, Gu snaps that Book Akshin is his sworn brother and insists he already checked all his men for tattoos. Without missing a beat, the kid asks if he actually made them strip down to their undergarments. The kid casually adds he heard that specific tattoo is hidden on the inside of the man's thigh. Gritting his teeth in sudden realization, Gu barks out Book Akshin's name. As the startled subordinate jogs over asking what's the matter, Gu coldly tells him to take it off. Guak snaps that he wants everything, right down to the undergarments. That prompts a shocked reaction before a smug smile answers that yes, right here and now works. Recalling how the spy from the Cheongsa gang hiding in the Hongyo gang turned out to be none other than Guak's sworn brother, Buk Ok Shin. Guak flies into a rage, screaming at Buk to strip down to his underwear right now. Buk tries to laugh it off, stammering in disbelief and complaining that his underwear is a bit embarrassing to show. Guak refuses to listen, shouting that an innocent man wouldn't hide anything and promising to be the only one looking. One of his companions quietly tells Buk to just get it over with before things turn ugly. He grits his teeth in pure anxiety as the pressure mounts. With a furious roar, Buk shoves past everyone and makes a desperate break for it. Guak immediately calls him out as a spy, but Buk panics internally, desperate to run before Boss catches him, only to be grabbed by the shoulder right away. Boss unleashes a brutal beatdown, battering Buk as his subordinates watch in shock. Under the bright sunlight bathing the grand traditional pavilion, Guak, bound by ropes, admits defeat and thanks them for exposing the spy. The leader then offers to wipe out the family grudge in exchange for the favor. Hui praises the decision before apologizing for his earlier disrespect. Boss asks what else is left to settle as they prepare to leave. Hui points out that while the grudge is gone, they still need to pay for the smashed gate plaque. The shattered remains of the family gate plaque lie broken on the ground. Complaining of the endless nagging, Boss hands over all their money to fix the gate. Baek Muryong praises Boss for taking in such a remarkably shrewd adopted son. Hui proudly brags about how many years he has survived in the martial world. Boss and his group finally take their leave while laughing. The family watches them depart from the courtyard. Beaming with a grin, he realizes he's completely cut ties with the Hongyo gang. He feels a rush of relief knowing his family is safe, realizing he actually changed the future. Clenching his fist, he vows to wipe out every single miserable fate from his past life. Baek Muryong calls out to Habi, thanking him for resolving the phresis without anyone getting hurt. Baek Muryong praises Hui, while another man cheerfully chimes in about all the money they got thanks to him. Hui gives an awkward laugh as everyone looks at him with shining grateful eyes. With a cheerful shout, 8-year-old Baek Yong Hui embraces his bright new reality. After driving away the Hongyo gang, nobody dares oppose Hui officially joining the Baek family. Hui turns around suddenly as someone catches his eye. He narrows his eyes in sharp recognition at the figure standing before him. Namgung stands with a serious, intense expression, staring right back at him. Nearby, the young warrior trains hard in the courtyard, testing his moves. Rows of wooden targets stand ready for practice. Wooden training swords are neatly lined up nearby. He throws a powerful punch that stirs up the air. Sweat drips from his face as he exerts himself. His hands slam onto the ground with force. He flips upside down effortlessly, defying gravity. Hui hangs upside down, catching his breath. He lands smoothly back on his feet. Flexing his fist, he marvels at his new condition. Hui realizes his body feels remarkably light and completely free from past chi deviations, making his old realm easy to reach. He recalls how training alone in his past life caused permanent meridian damage, vowing to build up his power carefully this time. Baek Muryong greets Hui for waking up so early. Hui calls out to his father, who asks if he slept well despite the unfamiliar bed. Beaming with joy, Hui replies he had the best sleep ever before Baek Muryong introduces his younger siblings. His younger siblings, Baek Hyun-so and Baek Yeon-yeon, stand side by side. Someone tells him about the children's ages, and little Yeon-yeon happily calls out to him. She beams with a bright smile, praising him for being so cool and chasing away the bad guys yesterday. Hyun-so excitedly chimes in, thrilled to have another cool older brother. Hui gently praises Yeon-yeon for being sweet and cute, prompting her to happily brag to her brother So. Hyun-so rudely snaps back that she looks like a pig and refuses to accept Hui as an older brother since he's the eldest son, leading Hui to scold him. Hui just smiles with a sweat drop, realizing Hyun-so hasn't changed a bit in this second life. The narrator notes that it's only natural for Hyun-so to be upset about suddenly losing his exclusive spot as heir to a new older brother. Reflecting on his past life, Hui recalls always yielding to Hyun-so because he was the biological son and thought that's what an older brother should do. Though lax parenting didn't help. A wine jar tilts and spills on the floor. Hyun-so grows up surrounded by bad company, laughing rowdily while drinking. That lack of discipline turned Hyun-so into a twisted person, but Hui remains resolute. Determined to fix that terrible attitude, he tells his younger brother to watch his tone. But Hyun-so fires right back, shouting that he's the firstborn and has no older brother. Before things escalate further, Baek Muryong steps in, but Hui immediately tells his father to wait. Hui suggests giving Hyun-so some space since everything feels too sudden, warning that scolding him will only breed resentment. With a bright smile, Hui adds that kids bond naturally by spending time together and vows to get along. Then, as Bak Mu-yang is moved, Hui admits with a smirk that he's just setting things up for a sincere chat later. Bak Mu-yang praises Huis for being so mature, but Huis immediately panics, whispering that saying stuff like that right in front of Hyun, so will just make him hate him more. Father tells the children that starting today, they will train for 2 hours, every single morning. Father tells them to get along well, and Hiwi and little Yeonyeon cheerfully answer yes. Hiwi looks forward with a quiet, serious expression. Hyunso stands, cross-armed in the distance, while Hui approaches him. Little Yeon asks Hui what they should do first, wondering where he is walking off to. Calls out to Hyunso directly. An annoyed Hyunso snaps at him not to act close and refuses to call a former beggar his brother, but Hiwi fires back. Hui lists the reasons, starting with the fact that their father decided it. He adds that mother accepted it too, and points out that Hyunso is still the true successor of the family. Hui asks if Hyunso hates him for being a beggar or for lacking blood ties, and when Hyunso admits both, Hui challenges his logic about their uncle. The boy snaps back, boasting that his uncle comes from the prestigious Zhu clan and is completely different from a mere beggar. Standing with his hands on his hips, Hui mutters to himself that the child always resorts to calling him that. Namgung looks down with a heavy sigh, wondering how a legendary hero of chivalry ended up with such a son, and resolves to break the boy's arrogance early before it ruins the entire family. He recalls his past life where an adult Hyunso ignored every warning from those around him. A brief flashback reveals Hyunso wasting away his days indulging in wild pleasures. That self-indulgence ultimately destroyed the clan back then, and seeing history repeat itself, Hui clenches his fists with fiery eyes, swearing he will never let it happen again. Panicking as trouble approaches, Hyunso stammers out a warning and tells everyone to stay back. Namgung declares that a disobedient brat needs a lesson, leaving Wig gasping in shock. With a fierce swing, Namgung delivers a powerful punch right down at the boy. He lets out a huge roar and catches his breath, leaving the younger siblings looking completely stunned on the ground. Hui points out that even though he used to live on the streets, he always fed himself, unlike the arrogant heir. He asks if the young master could ever survive outside those gates on his own. Furious, Hui warns him not to look down on the beggars' union, threatening another beating if he keeps insulting them. Calming down, Shui tells Hisan so that no one under heaven is worthless, whether a former beggar or the family heir. He notes that the boy probably won't understand. Hui casually extends his hand out with a wooden sword in hand. He challenges Hyunso to pick up his sword, promising to grant any demand if he manages to win. Hyunso stares in shock. The older boy wags his wooden sword and tells his little brother that if he wins, he has to call him Big Brother from now on. Down below, the young heir stares back at him with a deadpan expression. He demands he doesn't go back on his word, reminding him that a man's word is worth 1,000 gold pieces, while little Yeon cheers them both on. Little Yeon happily announces she is cheering for whoever wins. The two boys face each other in the courtyard, ready to clash. Hui figures that to break the pride of someone who always wants to win, you have to show absolute superiority. Hyunso scoffs at the thought. Hyunso boasts that he has spent 2 years training martial arts under his father. He grips his wooden sword tightly into a combat stance. He asks if he'd ever lose to a beggar who used to eat scraps off the street. Furious, Hyunso snaps and tells him fine. Hyunso generously offers to let Hui take 3 moves first, and Hui politely replies that he is deeply grateful. Smirking, Hui twirls his weapon and warns that he won't hold back. Hui glares at him with a sharp blue flash in his eye, warning that he is going to teach him a proper lesson. Startled by the sudden movement, the young opponent gasps in shock and asks where he went. Popping up right next to him, Hui cheerfully greets the boy, who panics that he is already too close and swings wildly out of desperation. Hyunso's eyes widen in disbelief as his opponent casually blocks the furious strike. Fierce clash of wooden swords sends a shockwave through the training ground. Sent crashing to the ground, Hyunso yells that he was promised 3 free moves instead of getting attacked, but Hui simply tells him to get up already. Striking a relaxed pose, Hui grins and says they still need plenty of time for a heartfelt chat. Clutching his head in frustration, Hyunso demands to know where this infuriating stranger even came from. Hyunso calls him a coward for ambushing someone out of nowhere. With a wide mocking grin, Hui fires back and asks if he would cry about cowardice on a real battlefield too. The harsh reality of those words sends a chill right down Hyunso's spine. As the attacker shouts that talking is useless, Hui panics and yells out in surprise. Little Yeon happily announces the victor of the spar, cheering with a wide grin. The victor smirks, noting that this quick battle should settle the household hierarchy once and for all. Hui reflects that though the kid is arrogant, he refused to let go of his sword, deciding to make sure Hyunso avoids his past mistakes. Standing over the downed boy, Hui tells Hyunso to get up as the young rival groans in pain. Hyunso bolts awake with a gasp, only to find He right there calling him a punk. Hui lectures him that a martial family scion shouldn't pass out so easily, though he praises him for keeping his grip on the sword. With tearful eyes, Hyunso finally caves and stammers out his respect, acknowledging Hui as his older brother. He tells him that as a reward for being a good little brother, she'll take him somewhere fun, and he excitedly asks if they're going outside. A hand rests steadily on a wooden post. He eagerly calls out to his little sister to join them, promising to show her around the outside world with a wide grin. Hidden behind the lush bushes, young Yan lets out a sudden gasp. She suddenly spits out a mouthful with a startled pff sound. Moments later, Huia tells Yeon to move over, leaving her confused before unhappily complaining about being covered in dirt. They crawl out from the bushes outside the estate grounds. Brother Hui points out that they must have lived very sheltered lives if they never used a dog hole before. As the kids question why they are sneaking around, Brother Hui explains they are going outside for some fun since they haven't left in months, prompting Yeon to ask if he has any money. Grinning slyly, Brother Hui prepares to reveal a surprise. He proudly holds up a piece of silver he swiped from the enemy disciples yesterday, happily promising Yeon she can buy sweets with it. Back inside, a worried girl asks if it is really safe for them to go out alone, given all the dangerous black market gangs in Agan County. Pausing for a second, Huia insists he is totally fine and boasts that he can easily handle anyone who picks a fight. Suddenly, someone reaches out and grabs her by the shoulder from behind. As he pulls her close, he reasons that Yeon is still too little and it would be a total disaster if anyone tried to kidnap her. He casually tells her she's got a leaf stuck on her, leaving her utterly confused. Watching from nearby, Hee-jui figures that Hyun-so actually cares about his little sister and isn't a bad person at heart, except he immediately turns to remind them where he came from, pointing out he was just wandering the streets as a beggar yesterday. He boasts that he knows the streets of Agan County like the back of his hand, knows every safe and dangerous spot, and has already hired a bodyguard. Standing right there is a massive, menacing brute covered in scars. The others panic, whispering if that's really the guy he hired, while Yeon gasps that it's the exact same brute who smashed down their door, as Hui cheerfully greets him as Brother Gu. Gu stands frozen in place with a deadpan expression while the kids stand a few feet away. With a vein popping on his temple, Gu quietly tells his little brother to explain the entire situation. Gu mentally complains to himself, asking why on earth he has to babysit these kids. Hui just flashes a confident grin and points out that since he said it himself yesterday, Gu should call him Big Brother. Huia reminds the big guy that a true man keeps his word and acknowledges him as a brother. He pushes his luck, asking if he will accept him as a younger brother or protect the three siblings. Caught off guard, Gu stands completely speechless with a cold sweat, wondering how to answer. Terrified of the kid, Gu stutters that he will protect him. The group explores a bustling street filled with lively traditional market stalls. People walk through the lively marketplace as vendors prepare their food. Children gather around a busy stall, displaying sweet candied fruit skewers. The whole family beams with excitement as they wander through the festive area. Yoni excitedly asks for sweets, and Huia happily tells her to pick whatever she wants. Gu tells the kids not to wander too far while Soya quietly stares at a food stand. Juicy skewers sizzle over hot coals on the grill. Soya watches the grilled food with a longing look in her eyes. Huia surprises her by handing over a skewer, guessing correctly that she prefers meat over sweets. Hui hands a freshly baked skewer to little Yan, pointing out she's been staring at it the whole time. He tells her to go ahead and try it while it's hot and delicious. Yan eagerly takes a big bite of the offered food. After struggling with the mouthful, Yan admits it's actually really good. Beaming with pride, she tells him it tastes even better because her big brother bought it, before excitedly offering some sweets to Hyun, so too. Before she can eat too many, Hiwi steps in to stop her, warning that too many sweets are bad for her health, which prompts a loud protest from the little girl. A diary entry titled Yeon's Diary opens up the recollection. Baek Moo-ryong stands furious with a scowl, while a companion watches with an awkward chuckle. As Yeon recalls, after a full day of playing out with her brothers, they returned home to face a thoroughly enraged father. Brother Hui immediately steps forward to take full blame, hoping to spare the others, but Hyun so unexpectedly joins in to share the punishment as well. The children kneel side by side indoors while enduring their discipline. Reflecting on the ordeal, Yeon admits that going through that punishment was genuinely tough. Looking back on the day, Hui reflects with a cheerful thought that today was really fun. The sun sets over the grand traditional estate as evening approaches. Inside an outdoor seating area, Gu sits quietly with a bowl of food. Suddenly, Hui pops up with a bright grin, calling out that he's here. Gu continues eating his noodles without paying any attention to him. As evening settles over the courtyard, crows caw above the building. Startled by the unexpected visit, Gu yells and demands to know why Hu is here again. Unfazed, Hui casually asks for a bowl of noodles, prompting an exasperated Gu to demand what he wants after acting as their bodyguard all day. Hui flashes a confident grin and announces he wants to talk business, leaving Gu staring at him in utter confusion. Leaning in close with his hands clasped, Hui waits for Gu to process his words. When Gu finally registers the word business, he slams his bowl down in shock upon hearing that Hui knows where the Cheongsabang hid their silver. Whispering frantically to keep their voices down, Huya asks how the burly man managed to dig up such deep intel, learning he picked it all up while begging on the streets. With a sneaky grin and a confident point of his finger, Huya looks straight at him and asks if he wants to join. Out of nowhere, Brother Gu questions why anyone would want to work together on this deal. Folding his arms with a scowl, he asks why he'd share the profit instead of keeping it all. Slurping noodles with a grin, this brat replies it's just to get close to such a noble character. Flattered by the remark, Brother Gu blushes slightly before realizing he's being teased and snapping back. Changing tone, this brat admits it was just a joke and pivots straight into a juicy rumor. Leaning in, he drops the gossip that the gang leader's 6 sons secretly took a mistress first. A bowl of hot food sits on the table as the tension quietly spikes. Losing his patience, Brother Gu towers over the table and warns that there is a strict limit to his humor. Wind sweeps through the outdoor tavern as the atmosphere turns ice cold. Before things turn violent, this brat tells him to chill out because this little chat might actually fix his biggest headache. With a calm smirk, this brat offers to turn that hidden mistress into his legitimate wife. Someone whispers about the beloved as the scene focuses on a young martial artist sitting at a table. Back in the past, Brother Gu's beloved mistress triggers a massive gang massacre because the leader refuses to accept a former Jiseng. Seeking more influence, the gang leader has her murdered, completely misjudging the fallout. She was the one person Brother Gu loved more than his own life, shattering his relationship with his father. That betrayal unleashes a bloody war that sweeps through the entire Hongyo gang. Back in the present, this brat reflects on his limited young body and decides he needs an assistant. Up close, this brat schemes to win Brother Gu over by targeting that devoted mistress. As Brother Gu glares in silence, the kid figures using her as leverage will do the trick. But Brother Gu narrows his eyes, demanding to know how a nobody plans to pull that off. The kid fires right back, pointing out that if Brother Gu climbs high enough in the Hongyo gang, nobody will dare question his wife's background. The two sit across from each other in the tavern, deep in conversation. Pressing the advantage, this brat reveals that the rival Cheongsa gang is smuggling poison bombs to crush the Hongyo gang, urging Brother Gu to stop them first. With a persuasive smile, the kid asks if stopping this disaster wouldn't be merit enough for a promotion. Brother Gu weighs the words, remembering that this kid's past intel was dead accurate, and beggars are unmatched at gathering street rumors. Gripping his hand tightly, Brother Gu figures the odds of it being true are remarkably high. Deciding to take a gamble, Brother Gu caves in and tells the kid to lead the way for this one last time. As Brother Gu agrees, this brat flashes a knowing grin, confident the plan has completely hooked him. Inside the dimly lit hideout, a man keeps watch while his companions rest quietly. Brother Gu points out the Cheongsa gang hideout, while this brat claims one target and asks if he can handle the rest. Holding a few rocks, this brat smiles and tells Brother Gu to use his head instead of pure strength in this situation. A guard wakes up yawning, but then this brat boldly marches right up, shouting that a customer is coming. The guard asks what the kid is doing there, before angrily telling him to get lost and flicking him away. Namgung approaches the hideout, calling out to the fellow beggars inside and asking why they never go out to beg. This brat happily presents a pot of suspicious food, inviting the men to eat together. The two men gag in sheer disgust at the awful sight of the meal. Namgung angrily shouts at him to scram, leaving this brat bewildered since beggars usually never turn down food. Sensing something is off, this brat asks if they are real beggars, prompting the men to whisper about finishing him off before deciding to just kick him out. This brat realizes the men belong to the second-rate realm and knows he cannot win without internal energy. However, he decides to pull a trick anyway. As Namgung tries to act tough and warn him off, this brat feigns tripping on a rock and smashes the pot right onto the man's face. Caught off guard, the beggar panics and screams out in sheer terror as this brat strikes. With a focused glare, this brat resolves to make up for his lacking internal energy by making a true step, dashing forward with incredible speed to close the distance. A blur of motion marks his rapid advance, straight toward the bewildered target. The strike lands with brutal force, knocking a sudden cry of pain from Buk-ak-shin as he takes a heavy blow. Stunned by the sudden turnaround, Buk-ak-shin's companion can only stare in total shock at what just happened. Buk-ak-shin crashes heavily to the ground, sent sprawling by the unexpected assault. This brat holds up his hand with a triumphant grin, ready to deliver a sharp warning. He casually asks if the beggars haven't heard that in the Marim you must be careful of women, the elderly and children, warning them that letting your guard down because of appearances will cost you your life. Furious at the humiliation, Buk-ak-shin's ally draws his sword and yells in anger at the little brat. Before the situation can escalate further, this brat reaches out and grabs the Cheongsa beggar right by the head. Gu slams an enemy down, telling him to shut his stinking mouth. Skulls crack together under the brutal impact. This brat smiles and calls it a satisfying sound, but Gu just groans in annoyance. He gives Gu a thumbs up, praising his ruthless dark faction style. Gu brushes his hands off, wondering how those Cheongsa guys lost. He wonders how anyone could lose to such a brat. He suspects the boy must have eaten some rare spirit pill. Inside the dimly lit warehouse, wooden crates are stacked high in the shadows. A bound captive sits slumped against a pillar inside the dark building. Someone reaches out to grab the heavy wooden door handle in the dark. The warehouse doors swing wide open as Gu and the brat step inside. Staring at the endless piles of crates, the brat remarks on the massive amount. They slip inside the dim warehouse together to inspect the stored goods. Gu calls the brat quite something for taking down the enemies without proper martial arts training. Gu praises the brat's natural talent while noting that his personality is quite the opposite. Gu adds that such outstanding talent explains why the Bake Patriarch took the boy in. Opening a chest filled with treasure, both companions stare in absolute awe at the dazzling sight. Gu looks at the enormous fortune, realizing there is even more treasure than he expected. Overwhelmed by greed, the brat tells Gu to keep the poison bombs while he takes the silver. Gu throws a fit complaining that the loot split isn't fair, but the brat coolly insists it's a 50-50 division. He points to himself with a grin, explaining that all the silver goes straight to him, while brother Gu gets to keep all the poison bombs for himself. Completely stunned, Gu asks if he planned this all along, or if there's a way to just hog it all. Watching him closely, the boy reasons that Gu's nature isn't bad, but he needs to make sure he's truly trustworthy. Without missing a beat, he casually suggests that Gu can just get rid of him right here. Startled by the grim suggestion, Gu stares in disbelief as the kid reminds him that eliminating a single child is nothing for a top-tier expert. He points out that nobody back at the Bake Manor would even worry about his disappearance. Reflecting on his brief time with his new family, he notes they would just assume he ran away if he failed to return. With a chilling smile, Gu stares at him as the boy asks if this isn't the ultimate chance to commit murder without getting caught. Leaning in with bright blue eyes, he seals the dark proposal with an unsettling grin. The title appears on a stark black background. Gu glares at the kid, muttering under his breath about this little brat. Gu stays silent, watching him closely. He notes how the boy acts completely unbound by anything, yet recklessly wagers his own life without a second thought. Gu thinks about how the kid walks on a knife edge like a true vagabond. Gu suddenly shakes his head, wondering what he is even thinking, because for a split second that kid looked like a hardened vagabond swordsman, making him realize he is just getting played. Gu sighs in defeat, conceding the silver and telling the boy to take it because he has no intention of killing a greenhorn from the underworld. Gu reasons that killing the brat who keeps calling him brother would just give him terrible nightmares. Huya agrees to just take the poison bombs, muttering that even carrying them will take half the day. The narrator reflects that Guak has a good heart despite his underworld life, explaining his past willingness to risk everything for his loved one. Huya suddenly appears right behind Gu, cheerfully asking if he will haunt his dreams. Gu yelps in shock as Via ambushes him with a tight hug, calling it creepy. Huya playfully teases that his brother Gu likes him a lot, before the story shifts to the next day. A large traditional estate stands quietly under the morning sky. Steward Han and a companion look into a chest and stammer in utter confusion. Steward Han's eyes widen as he realizes the chest is completely full of money. The adults celebrate wildly over the treasure chest, demanding to know where Huia got all that cash. Huia proudly smiles and declares that he earned every bit of it. Baek and Patriarch Han are completely stunned, demanding to know how a child managed to get hold of so much money. Huia begs to use the funds while Patriarch Han excitedly lists off all the estate's troubles they can finally fix. Steward Han calls out just as Baek Muryong arrives with a serious look, telling Huia to explain himself. Patriarch Han worries if Huia got into trouble, but Huia casually mentions he went with Gu, shocking Namgung when she realizes it is the notorious gang leader who smashed their gate. Huia flashes a cheerful grin as he starts explaining how everything went down. The quiet hallway sits empty. A teapot and a plate of food rest on a table. Wrapping up his story, Huia reasons that true righteous heroes reclaim dirty money for good causes. He smiles warmly, explaining he just wanted to repay Baek Muryong for taking him in. Huia cheerfully asks his adoptive father to accept the money. Baek Muryong sits in silence, listening to the explanation. Baek Muryong admits that while he should scold Huia for acting so recklessly, the boy's exceptional talent makes it wrong to confine him. He resolves that he cannot stand in the way of Huia's future, even if the family cannot properly nurture his incredible talents. The adults sit together quietly in the room as Huia looks on. Baek tells him she won't stand in his way anymore, but adds a warning. Baek Muryang gently asks him to promise to stay out of danger, leaving Baek touched. Both in this life and the last, his adoptive father's genuine worry moves him deeply. Touched by his father's constant care, Baek thanks him but refuses to take all the money, pointing out that his father earned it. Instead, he insists that his father manage half of it, leaving the chief steward totally shocked. Even he finds it wild to hand over half a fortune to an 8-year-old to manage, but figures he can use the seed money. He sets his mind on investing the funds to multiply them. Little Yeon peers through the open window, taking in the peaceful courtyard view. She pops up by the desk, asking Brother Hui what he is writing. When he offers to let her read it, she reminds him she can't, so he explains that it is a novel he wrote just to tell a fun story. She compares it to the trivial tale books their mother reads all the time, prompting him to head over to see their mother right away. The brat holds up his written pages, wondering if his story will turn out entertaining. On the wooden desk, a bound book titled The Tragedy of Severed rests beside a stand of brushes. Crowds gather on the bustling streets as townsfolk stop to look at a poster hanging on the wall. People murmur amongst themselves while examining the mysterious portrait displayed publicly in the square. Laborers carry heavy loads through the crowded thoroughfare amid the constant chatter of the onlookers. Someone asks what's going on with all the commotion and the gathered crowd. As people read the notice, they wonder why a courtesan from Oxeon Pavilion is looking for her biological father. Someone doubts any father would want a courtesan daughter, but another bystander defends her character. A man insists she is a pure and talented courtesan who kept her virtue, telling everyone to listen up. He stresses that she is a pure courtesan who sells her art rather than her body. The speaker announces to the crowd that the 25-year-old Rongrong is actively searching for her father. The grand celebration begins as the joyous Lantern Festival officially gets underway. As the festivities unfold, a father and daughter walk happily hand in hand, but tragedy suddenly strikes them. The young girl gets completely mesmerized by a butterfly-shaped lantern and slips right out of her father's grasp. The final image the heartbroken father catches is his child disappearing into the distance. Fluttering away like a butterfly, the child never sees her father again and wanders around asking where he is. A woman with a longing heart desperately wishes to see her father and show her filial piety before she dies. A poster depicting the tragic story hangs up for everyone to see. Onlookers pity the poor girl and wonder how she will ever find her lost father. People comfort the weeping old man, assuring him that the child will surely find her father. Someone points out the heartbreaking situation, noting that the father thankfully left her with a jade plaque token. The speaker reveals that anyone wishing to reclaim their lost family member should head to the Baek Manor in Agan County. Determined to help, the crowd enthusiastically agrees to track down the missing father. Standing with arms crossed, Hoey feels pleased with himself, noting that the market posters are working well and it is only a matter of time before Rongrong's father arrives. As he proudly praises his own genius, he dramatically fakes tears over the tragic separation, wishing from the bottom of his heart that the child reunites with her father. Turning to Sister Rangrong, he tells her that this is her story as the poster identifies her as Guak's lover. Completely stunned, Rangrang wonders if it is really her story, recalling how she grew up in a brothel without knowing her parents and got her jade plaque from a customer. She admits she just made up the dramatic background, but before she can explain further, Guak suddenly calls out to them. Guak runs over and hands them what they asked for, while she happily thanks him for the food as Hiwi watches. Rangrang greets brother Guak cheerfully and hands him the items he requested. She happily thanks him for the food while holding her snacks. Gu looks intently upward while standing outdoors. Gu tells his little brother that he just spotted something over there, praising his clever knack for spinning a good tale. Gu worries that he spent a lot of silver on posters and rumors, demanding that this plan better work out, but Huya tells him to stop stressing and just wait for Rangrang's father to show up. Gu tells himself not to fret too much before nodding in agreement. Gu figures everything is arranged properly, though he can't help wondering why he keeps getting sweet-talked by this guy's slick tongue. Huya spots Rangrang and calls out to her, while Gu urges her to stay at the Bake Manor for a while because bad people might try to impersonate her after seeing the posters. Gu explains that staying at the Bake Manor will keep swindlers away, leaving Rangrang surprised at the mention of the estate. As Rangrang wonders what to do, Gu reasons internally that the impersonation excuse is just a cover for his real fear that the Hongyo gang leader might hurt her. Gu backs up the proposal, telling Rangrang that his little brother is right and urging her to stay at the Bake Manor for a while. Rangrang agrees with a nod, telling them that she will do as they say. Under the night sky, Rangrang tells brother Ak that she accepts his advice. Bake stares at the jade plaque, realizing that it's packed with inner chi and must have protected someone. Rangrang remembers getting that exact jade plaque when she was just a little kid. While she was busy doing chores at a restaurant, a random customer just handed it right to her. That guy told her the plaque would always keep her safe and made her promise to wear it constantly. He also warned her never to sell it under any circumstances. Even though she felt bad accepting such an expensive gift, she kept wearing it because it looked so pretty. But now, everything changes. Wearing it just out of habit, Bake figures there's no way someone would hand top-grade suet jade to a random restaurant girl for nothing. He realizes there has to be a hidden motive behind that generous gift. Bake suddenly snaps his head up. He leaps through the open window into the dark night. Landing outside under the moonlight, he looks up and welcomes his visitor. It turns out to be Rangrang's biological father, the notorious public enemy of the Murim, Yeo Unjiok. The grand traditional buildings of the Bake Manor sit peacefully under the bright morning sun. Then Chu Yongwol introduces herself with a bright smile, explaining she rushed over as soon as she received the letter. As they sit together for tea, Chu politely apologizes for the sudden intrusion, but the young master waves it off with a laugh. Chu smiles warmly while listening across the low table. Yet she admits she's completely stunned to discover that the famous author Il Pilwisio is actually an 8-year-old boy. Judging by the powerful writing, Chu thought the author was a veteran master nearing 40, but the young master humbly replies his writing still needs work. Thinking to himself, the boy realizes her eye for talent is actually spot on if you factor in his age from a past life. Brushing past the pleasantries, Chu declares business knows no age or gender before asking why he sent her the manuscript. Looking down at the heavy manuscript titled The Tragedy of Severed Love, she doubts he sent it just for her personal reading pleasure. Appreciating her directness, the young master smiles and replies that he won't beat around the bush. Stepping into Baxio bookstore, the young master tells Chu that he wants to sell his book right there. Chu adjusts her glasses as she realizes that he actually planned to sell his manuscript all along. Close up on her wide eyes, peering through round spectacles. Chu admits the book is interesting, but points out a fundamental flaw. Novels normally spread by word of mouth in tea houses, meaning people won't actually pay money to buy them. Because of that issue, Chu concludes it's hard to assign any real value to just a single manuscript. Unfazed, young master insists that it will sell anyway. Young master confidently guarantees that people will soon pay a premium for it, and true enough, the book releases to an explosive craze where readers gladly buy copies instead of waiting for storytellers. Chu taps her fingers on the table, questioning if he can really write a story so good that people will fight to buy it first. Young master fires back by asking if she hasn't already read the manuscript he wrote. He casually mentions he has over 100 more story concepts locked inside his head. Adding that none of them fall short in quality, he leaves Chu staring in stunned surprise. Chu sits in silence with a knowing grin. Repeating the staggering number back to him, Chu breaks into quiet chuckles that leave young master entirely confused. Chu grabs the young master's hands, passionately begging him to partner with Baekseo bookstore. Caught off guard, he stammers out a confused yes in response. Chu raves that his novels are a guaranteed fortune, but he quickly begs her to let go of his hands while internally noting her real personality. Right now, the Baekseo Merchant Guild is just a tiny bookstore, but within a decade it grows into a nationwide empire. Chu Youngwol is the mastermind behind that massive growth, and the young master realizes her legendary nose for money is entirely true. She declares that his stories will print money, admitting she came all this way just to see what kind of person he actually is. She evaluates the manuscript enthusiastically, and when asked if she met expectations, she admits she's more than satisfied. She notes that novels are usually just recited in tea houses, but she believes Il Pilwisio will shatter that convention and change the market. Wanting exclusive rights to sell the manuscript at Baekseo bookstore, she offers 40% of the profits, prompting a deal and a counter-proposal. Huya proposes numbering each book batch, signing 10 copies as premium collector items whose value will skyrocket as the author's reputation grows. Chu suggests decorating those 10 copies with gold thread for a massive markup, though she hesitates when production costs cross her mind. To handle those expenses, Huya casually asks what would happen if he invested around 4,000 silver taels into Baekseo bookstore. Shocked by the 4,000 silver, Chu flips out with joy, calling Huya an absolute treasure and asking where he's been hiding. Declaring she will spoil him rotten, Chu lunges forward to kiss the panicked boy while he desperately tells her to let go. Baek stands with a deadpan, annoyed expression while covered in lipstick marks. As Chu says she will return soon with good news, Baek simply tells her to get lost. Han notes how Baek got promoted from young master to esteemed investor after scoring 4,000 silver taels. Admitting it is true, Baek promises to write more manuscripts and places himself in the shopkeeper's care. Chu tells him to leave it to her and eagerly awaits the next thrilling tale. Then she urges her horse forward, riding off into the distance. Watching her go, Baek thinks about how Chu Youngwol's drive as the future guild head is truly remarkable. Chu is looking forward to the venture even more than she expected. Though shocked by her personality, Han turns to ask Baek how much money he made this time. Baek asks in surprise if he is supposed to be making money. Han reminds him about shaking down gangs and argues the bookstore's turn has come, noting that Baek Manor is in total shambles and asking if today's earnings can cover it all. Hui reflects on spending the money, feeling like he got played by Chief Steward Han. Even so, he smiles, finding it refreshing to witness this rare side of the older man. Hui figures he will just spend it all on good food with the kids. Chief Steward Han begs the young master to share his wicked scheme. A few days later, patience wears thin. Guak slams his hand down, demanding answers about his promised marriage to Rangrong. He complains about waiting days in vain and having to track down Hui himself. Guak threatens to tear him limb from limb if he lied. Hui realizes that staying indoors too long finally broke the man's patience. Baek Yang Hui ends up effectively kidnapped by Guak. 1 hour before Baek Yang Hui gets kidnapped, birds fly over a sprawling estate. Down below, Hyunso strains under the crushing weight of heavy stones tied to his arms. He struggles to keep his stance while holding the heavy training weights. With tears in his eyes, he cries out for his brother. He asks how much longer he has to keep going, but someone interrupts him with a sharp ahem. Hyunso gets whacked for letting his hands drop, groaning in pain as Hyunso explains how the 6 harmonies art fuses inner and outer chi. The technique draws in natural chi to strengthen the body inside and out, leaving the exhausted boy completely clueless. Complaining that he has no idea what that means, he is told that suffering makes him stronger, so he better not skip any training, leaving the boy to collapse in despair. Flat on his back from sheer exhaustion, he gets praised by his siblings for surviving such brutal training for a whole geik. Pointing out that he is not actually dead, Hyunso decides he deserves a break after making sure the kid didn't run away. Lying flat on the ground after training, he figures the workout is pretty exhausting. As a young companion checks on him, he jokes that brother never gets tired and is practically a monster. He silently laments that no matter his martial arts experience, his young body lacks the physical strength for his true abilities. Overwhelmed by frustration, he throws his head back and lets out a loud, dramatic groan. Tears well up in his eyes as he whines that his body wasn't like this in his past life, when he had bulging muscles. A brief flashback reveals the imposing, muscular physique he used to possess. Daydreaming about those huge muscles, Hui suddenly shouts out loud, startling a nearby companion who asks what he is babbling about. Guak suddenly appears crouching right beside him, staring down with an intense expression. Startled by the unexpected visitor, Huey quickly sits up and happily greets Brother Gu, while Guak responds with a cold hemph. Brushing off the greeting, Guak explains he hates noisy entrances and just jumped the wall, leaving Hui to blink in confusion. Guak criticizes the manor for being too defenseless for a martial family, prompting Hui to praise him as a true first-rate realm master. Guak demands to know if his martial arts look like a joke, leaving Hoop to stand there and ponder. Hui reflects that while the family's foundation is solid, missing mnemonic verses held them back, so in his past life he upgraded the 6 harmonies art into the heavenly harmony art. He recalls returning with that perfected method, only to find the Bake Manor completely fallen. Determined that it is not too late this time, Guak tells Hui they need to head out together. Before Hui can ask where they are going, Guak cuts him off with orders to just follow, dragging him off in a panic. As Guak whisks him away through the air, Hui panics and yells at the kids below to go tell their father. As Yeon panics over Hui's abduction, Hyun so frantically orders her to go get their father right away. Then someone off-screen suddenly demands to know what is going on here. Now the story shifts to a quiet bamboo grove. Gu leads Hui into his courtyard, telling the boy they can speak freely there. Hui notes that the spot isn't far from where they ate noodles before, while Gu wonders why the kid didn't even blink during their flight. Gu points out that most brats would be dangling in midair, crying their eyes out and soaking their trousers. Hui casually replies that they were practically flying anyway. Flattering Gu with smooth words, Hui says he trusts a handsome and righteous gentleman like him to never drop a frail child. Gu admits the boy has a silver tongue, but reminds him that after promising to help make Rongrong his wife, Hui vanished for days. Slamming his hand down, Gu demands to know exactly how Hui plans to make that happen. Sweating under Gu's killing intent, Hui insists he hasn't forgotten since it concerns Sister Rang, causing Gu to react in utter shock at the title. Grabbing the cheeky brat by his collar, a flustered Gu looms over him. Hui smoothly reasons that if she is Gu's beloved, she naturally becomes his elder sister too. Gu immediately agrees, completely won over by the clever logic. Gu's biggest weakness is his beloved Rongrong, but she's also the one thing nobody is allowed to touch. In a past life, when the Hongyo gang ruthlessly killed her, Gu lost his mind and defied the natural order just because he loved her that much. Gu deeply adores the former courtesan and wants to spend his life with her alone, but his father demands an arranged marriage to a noble lady who forbids concubines, leaving him torn between duty and his devotion to Rangrong. Caught between his father's wishes and his love for Rongrong, Gu agonizes over what to do next. His fierce devotion to her is completely genuine. That true love is the exact reason he tore the Hongyo gang apart in a blind rage after losing her, except that bloody massacre wasn't accomplished by Gu alone. Behind the scenes lurks Rangrong's biological father, the notorious public enemy Yeo Unjiok, prompting Shui to declare that they must find him before he makes his move, assuring a worried Gu that he has a brilliant plan. Busy crowds bustle through the sunlit streets of the market square. Posters featuring a painted courtesan are displayed on walls across town. Workers and locals gather around as gossip spreads through the crowded alleys. Chu Yong-wol arrives at the scene, wondering what all the commotion is about. He learns that Rangrong from Oxeon Pavilion is searching for her biological father, leaving him confused. A laborer doubts a father would look for a courtesan, but an elderly man defends her reputation. Another bystander steps in to declare she is a pure talent, urging everyone to listen closely. The speaker emphasizes that she sells her art rather than her body. The man announces to the gathered crowd that 25-year-old Rangrong is actively searching for her father. The tale on the placards traces back to the day of the joyous Lantern Festival. A young girl walked happily holding her father's hand until tragedy struck. Distracted by a butterfly-like lantern, she slipped away from her father's grasp. The final glimpse the father had of his beloved child was her back fluttering away like a butterfly, leaving the child to wonder where her father went. Rangrong longs deeply to find him and show her filial piety before she passes away. People gather around to read the poster detailing her heartbreaking plight. Onlookers feel deeply sorry for the poor woman's impossible search. They wonder how she could ever hope to track him down after all this time. An old man breaks down in tears while others try to comfort him, convinced the child will succeed. Fortunately, the father left behind a jade plaque as a crucial token. The plaque matches the drawing on display, directing anyone seeking her family to the Bake Manor in Agan County. Down in the market, the crowd gets completely fired up by the posters, shouting that they will help her find him. Up on the balcony, Hui smirks with satisfaction, figuring it is only a matter of time before her father shows up now. He acts out his own tragedy with melodramatic tears, pretending to cry over a family separated for 20 years. Turning to Rangrong, Huey tells her this is her story, framing the former courtesan as Guak's lover. Rangrong blinks in shock as she hears her background, admitting she grew up in a brothel and got her jade plaque from a customer. She admits she didn't get it from her father, but rather from some random visitor who passed through. Hui casually notes people love drama, so he just fleshed it out, right before Guak bursts in calling out for them. Rangrong calls out to Gu, telling him she has brought what he asked for. She cheerfully thanks him for the food while holding her candied hawthorn sticks. The muscular warrior keeps a serious, focused look as he gazes ahead. Guak tells Hui that he spotted it nearby, praising the boy's incredible storytelling talent. Guak complains about spending a lot of silver on posters and rumors, demanding that this plan better work out. Hui tells him to stop worrying, assuring him that Rangrong's father will show up soon. Guak tells him not to fret too much, before conceding that everything must be set. He figures Hui arranged everything properly, though he wonders why he always falls for the boy's smooth talk. Hui calls out to Rangrong, suggesting she stay at the Bake Manor because the posters might attract imposters. He explains that staying there will keep swindlers away, leaving her surprised by the suggestion. Guak realizes the impersonation warning is just an excuse because he secretly worries the Hongyo gang leader might hurt her. Backing up Hui's idea, Guak tells Rangrong that her little brother is right and urges her to stay at the manor. The former courtesan agrees, saying all right to whatever plan is unfolding. Gu acknowledges the instructions, addressing him as Brother Ak. Hui inspects the jade plaque, realizing she has no clue that it is actually packed with inner chi, meant to act as a protective talisman. Rangrong recalls receiving that exact jade plaque when she was just a little girl. She explains that a customer simply handed it to her while she was busy doing chores at a restaurant. That stranger told her to keep it close at all times for protection and warned her never to sell it. Even though she wondered why someone would give away such an expensive item, she kept it because of the beautiful pattern. Hui realizes that giving such a precious suet jade plaque imbued with inner chi to a mere restaurant worker couldn't possibly be a coincidence. Convinced there is a hidden purpose, Hui knows that person had a deeper reason. Startled by a sudden presence, Hui snaps around inside the dark room. He looks toward the open window where the moonlight cuts through the night. As Hui turns, a mysterious visitor steps out of the shadows and tells him he is finally there. Hui stares in silence at the nocturnal intruder. The search for the former courtesan's biological father leads straight to a shocking revelation under the moonlight. Turns out he is none other than the notorious public enemy of the Marim, Yeo Unjiok. Holding the jade pendant, he realizes its owner has finally arrived and decides to go greet him. Young master recognizes the visitor standing before him as Rangrong's biological father. The mysterious arrival is revealed to be none other than Yeo Unjiok, the public enemy of the Murim. A lone figure cloaked in dark robes leaps smoothly across the moonlit rooftops. Confronting the cloaked elder, young master teases him for being exceptionally fond of the full moon. The veteran warrior narrows his eyes under the shadow of his bamboo hat. Young master stands his ground with a confident smile facing the dangerous visitor. The old man chuckles, noting that older people simply tend to need less sleep. He asks what brings a growing child out wandering alone at this hour of the night. Up on the roof, Bake casually explains he couldn't sleep because the jade pendant kept rattling, leaving the cloaked visitor speechless. He tells the old man not to get the wrong idea, explaining he only borrowed the item with Rangrong's permission. Bake introduces himself as Bake Yonghui, the adopted son of the Bake Manor, before dropping the visitor's true identity as the notorious master of deception, Yeo Unjiok. Stunned, the elder asks how he figured it out, but Bake smirks that this isn't even the half of it. The narrative reveals that Yeo Unjiok wasn't originally a fighter at all, but rather a brilliant craftsman whose extraordinary talent ended up ruining his entire life. Flashing back 20 years, a young girl watches with wide eyes as her father works. He meticulously paints traditional artwork with his brush. She cheerfully admires the finished creation, telling him how pretty it turned out. His wife smiles warmly at him, praising his incredible skills. She offers him some tea to help while he works inside their small antique shop, and he gratefully accepts. Back then, Yeo Unjiok enjoyed peaceful, quiet days alongside his loving wife and daughter. Then one day, the unorthodox Blood Serpent Union approaches Yeo Unjiok and demands an exact replica of a treasure map. Unaware of their real plans, he makes the map, which the Union then uses to lure orthodox martial artists right into a trap. The unsuspecting fighters are completely helpless, leading to the massacre of the Huangbo clan in an event known as the Bloodshed of the Sword King's Tomb. He walks alone through a dark forest in the pouring rain. After that, Yeo Unjiok becomes a public enemy hunted by the wrathful Hwangbo clan, losing his wife and getting separated from his young daughter along the way. He vanishes from the world, leaving only a protection charm behind, but upon learning his daughter was killed by the Hongyo leader, he triggers a final bloodbath before dying. Up on the roof, young master tells Rangrong's biological father that this life is different, offering to secure a peaceful future with his daughter if he joins the Baek clan. The elderly man in the conical hat urges him to go on, asking what else he happens to know. Wind sweeps across the dark rooftops as the two figures stand facing each other under the night sky. Young master steps up to explain, revealing that Sister Rongrong's lover is Guak, the son of the Hongyo sect leader. He adds that the sect leader considers her a thorn in his side and is actively trying to kill her. Rangrong's biological father reacts in shock, demanding to know what he just heard. Upon realizing the Hongyo sect leader is targeting his daughter, he gets confirmation before learning she is also suffering from poisoning. Shocked by the news, young master explains that the Hongyo leader has been slowly killing her by dosing her medicines, leaving the old man speechless. Rangrong's biological father narrows his eyes and tells young master to listen closely. He points out that his daughter is currently safe at the Baek Manor, noting that young master used tricks to lure him out before bringing up poison. Enraged, Rangrong's biological father accuses him of bringing Rangrong to the manor just to get something from him and demands his true intentions right this instant. Up above, the young master casually addresses his master with a cheerful greeting. Landing with a massive shockwave, Hui tells the stunned elder to relax, explaining that he just wants Rangrong and Gu to live happily together with her biological father, and asks for his trust. The elderly man stares in absolute disbelief, wondering just who on earth this kid really is. Sweat rolls down his face beneath the straw hat as he tries to process what just happened. With a curious look, Hui wonders out loud if he's actually the person they think he is. Letting out a chuckle, the old man figures he must really be getting old. He brushes off both the Orthodox and unorthodox Fox factions as a bunch of schemers. Straight to the point, he tells the boy to stop beating around the bush and lay out his plot. With a bright smile, Huiti cheerfully admits to having a scheme to make Aegon County's gangs fight and wipe each other out. Someone tells Master Yeo that they need his help. Gu loses his mind, shouting out in absolute shock upon learning Rangrong was poisoned. As he demands to know the culprit, Baek calmly reassures him that she was found early and will fully recover in a few days. Baek points out that the poisoning happened before she even reached the Baek Manor. It makes it obvious who's behind it, leaving Gu staring in grim realization. Gu grits his teeth, wondering why his own father would try to kill her, while Baek suggests it's either to force a marriage or use her as a hostage. Young master tells Gu that worrying about being recognized by the sect leader doesn't matter anymore, because he has to choose. Faced with the ultimate dilemma, Gu asks himself if he chooses Sister Rangrong or the Hongyo sect. Clenching his fist tight, Gu struggles to give his answer. He explains that as one of the Hongyo sect leader Gu Cheol-hyo's many sons, he's basically just a political tool for an arranged marriage with a rival gang. But he declares that to him, Rangrong is his one and only, and he simply cannot live without her. With an intense look in his eyes, Gu vows that no matter what anyone else says, he is going to protect Rangrong.